Let's get the show going. Hi everybody, this is Alex from Request Network. It's great to have you here. We will do a little Q&A session with Brian from Copra Finance. As usual, this will be sort of Q&A with a little twist, a little kind of like a panel style, where each question can also be a little discussion on the subject of the question. There are no live questions. If you do have questions, you can either leave them as a comment in the space thread, the X space thread, SpaceX thread, or on Discord, on our Discord. Otherwise, like I said, I am Alex. It is nice to meet you. I handle community and communications for Request Network. And Copra is one of our grant recipients from earlier in this year. They have a lot on their plate. As far as I know, they started with only 2 employees, Brian and Dimitris, and right now there's a team of 6 working on a better financial future for everybody. And I would like to ask Brian if you could introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about you and what's Copra.
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Alex, for organizing the space and to start this off. Yeah, I can start by introducing myself and give a bit of overview about Copra Finance as well. Yeah, as for myself, again, my name is Brian. I am Indonesian, based in Indonesia. Spent a bit of time in the US as well before to get my degree and to work there as well for a few years in the finance industry. And after that, I actually came back home to Indonesia around 7 to 8 years ago. And that's where kind of most of my background was in Indonesia. I was a fintech lending entrepreneur in Indonesia and Southeast Asia for a while. Did that for 6-7 years before this. I actually started 2 companies in that space. My first startup was a peer-to-peer lending platform, and that startup was helping specifically underserved SMEs in Indonesia, SMEs being small and medium enterprises. And then my second startup was a leasing platform. Back then we leased IT equipment, so laptops and computers, to also small and medium enterprises. So both startups in the financing sector, fintech lending, if you will. Lucky enough to have both of my startups actually got acquired. And since beginning of last year, been transitioning into the crypto space for a new adventure, but still kind of leveraging my background in credit to start something in the intersection of credit and crypto. So that's kind of where Copra Finance is born.
So you went to the States and you spent some time there, but then you decided to, from what I understand, decided to go back to Indonesia and help the financial system there?
Yeah, I wasn't born in the States. I was born in Indonesia, actually. I went to the States for college, and yeah, decided to come back home around 8 years ago. And I kind of saw back then the opportunity because specifically in the credit sector in Indonesia back in 2015, 2016, it was very nascent. Back then, there's no proper infrastructure yet. You can think about it as a lot of these lending operations back then are pawnshop-like, if you will. So you can think about it like Have and Compound and DeFi, which is over-collateralized lending, right? That's what happens when an infrastructure or a space do not have a proper credit infrastructure yet. It's just a typical nascent how a typical nascent credit infrastructure looks like. And that's also kind of when I look back on my credit entrepreneur journey in Indonesia, I saw how the credit infrastructure evolved from, pawn shop model in 2015, 2016. Now, in 2020, 2021, we already have a very mature credit system where it's mostly based on reputation. So we already have credit scores, database. That's what happens in Indonesia. So if we track back how that evolved from a very primitive pawn shop model to now, the transition stage is actually income-backed credit, and that's actually why we at Copra Finance try to focus on income-backed credit as well, because I believe the evolution that happens in the I'm still relying some similar.
You cut off for a second there.
Yeah, I was saying, can you hear me fine now? Yeah, I was saying the way credit infrastructure evolve in emerging markets, as I've seen in Indonesia, from a punch model to the more mature reputation-based model. The transition stage is income-backed credit, and I believe how credit in DeFi will evolve is kind of in a similar way. Now we have Aave and Compound, which effectively is kind of a pawn shop model, right? You put one collateral and you can disperse another type of assets
as well.
Right. So I think the next stage in DeFi credit is actually income backed, where income is the collateral, and then that's kind of the premise, one of the key premise of why we start Copra Finance. Yeah.
I love that simply because there's adoption. Obviously, there's adoption, more and more adoption every year. There's also regulations, and together this means that more and more people will, make it official that they are getting paid in crypto one way or another, and using those income flows, they will sometimes need liquidity either to pay their rent on time or to buy something expensive like a car, an apartment, or simply just get a general purpose loan. And we are moving in that direction. But like you said, it's in the early days. There's still a kind of like a Web2 traditional system in place in Web3 currently with Aave and Compound, where you need to have some sort of collateral, right? And I'm happy to hear that you just mentioned like a couple of minutes ago, you mentioned reputation.
Yeah, and I think
at we're quite keen on that as well, on building a reputation layer that is based on multiple factors, so that it's more than just simple credit scoring based on your previous income. So reputation can be so much more than just a number.
Yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of people talk about uncollateralized lending, right? In DeFi. And I guess everyone knows that sooner or later that's where DeFi is heading. That's because that's how credit works in the real world. I think the big question people don't really ask a lot or don't really think a lot is like how to go there. In principle, I think there's actually, if you think about it, there's no such thing as lending without collateral. In every single lending, there's always collateral. And the question is, what is the collateral, right? In reputation-based lending, the collateral is your reputation, right? Your social capital. Yeah. So it's really about
default once, and then your reputation tanks.
Yeah, it's really about figuring out what is the collateral. So in the early days with Aave and Compound, another token is the collateral. You deposit ETH, you borrow USDC, and then from there, what is another asset that you can use as collateral? And for us, we think it's going to be future income, right? Or in other words, as receivables from these request finance invoices. So that's how we think about how to approach uncollateralized lending conceptually.
So I take it at, we all understood that you've basically worked your entire career in credits and ways that people can access credit lines. But let me ask you, the move to Web3, was it the personal experience that made you want to start Copra, or was it something else?
Yeah, for me, I have a close friend that was in the space before myself. I actually bought Bitcoin in 2013, but that's like, a long, long time ago.
Ooh.
I sold it for some gains and just forgot about it. I didn't even understand Bitcoin or any crypto back then. I was just buying it for fun. But I revisited during in the beginning of DeFi summer, which is in the mid 2020, right? And I think
Yeah,
that's
2 years
when,
ago.
yeah, Aave and Compound just got started, right? It just exploded. And that's where I realized, okay, we can build financial applications on top of the blockchain, on top of Ethereum. And obviously, lending is key financial primitives in any financial system. And when I see Aave and Compound, that's a primitive version of lending. And obviously, we need to build something that's more advanced. That's more mature uh, than that. But the question is how. That's the harder question. Me and my co-founder, we navigated quite a few other ideas before this because we're both still, transitioning in the crypto space, which took us ultimately around 2 years to really get into um, get to the mindset and really blending into the community. So that's learning experience for us. It's a process that we think we need to actually go through, and ultimately land into this idea.
And aside you and Dimitris, your co-founder, who else is working on Copra, and who's working on making this come through?
Yeah, so on the co-founder side, it's me and Dimitri. A little bit of introduction on Dimitri himself. He was previously an engineer at a Chainlink, and before that, he works for a few tech companies in Silicon Valley. We actually both are graduate of University of Illinois. I did that as my undergrad. He did that as his master's, but we actually didn't overlap, and we actually met through a mutual friend who was also an alumni. So that's a little bit of I guess funny story on how we met. And apart from us, we have a few other folks on the BD side, on engineering side. On the BD side, we have John, who just actually graduated from his PhD at UCL. He did chemistry, but crypto pulled him away from that. So he's helping BD and research with us, and we have a few engineers as well that's working on the team to make the product happen. Yeah.
Cool. So you've actually grown the team. We were over at Request. We were still like maybe a couple of weeks ago, a month ago, before starting to talk about the space. We were quite sure it was only you and Dimitri. It was only two guys, and I was happy to see that you've grown the team and that you were building a lot of stuff from what I heard. But we'll keep that for the end, for the final question. So moving on. We actually talked about some of the real world problems that Copra can help with, but would you like to focus on one? Because I know you're big on financial inclusion.
Yeah, sure. Maybe I actually forgot to kind of give an overview of what Copra is. Maybe I should have done it earlier. So Copra itself, in one sentence, what we are trying to do, our mission is to enable on-chain credit that is backed by on-chain income. So we integrate with payment tools, particularly Request Network in this case, where we essentially enable anyone who has an outstanding invoice to be able to get paid early on their invoice. So another way to say that is to get a loan on the back of their invoices. So how it works is can go to the Copra Finance web app. From there, there's a link to actually create the invoice on Request Network. You create the invoice there, and then when you go back to Copra Finance web app, you can actually see that your invoice has been automatically detected, So you can actually see your invoice there. You can select the invoice, and then you can mint an NFT. We call it the Copra NFT. So this NFT is what represents the payout of the invoice, right? And the way you actually get a loan is by selling this NFT. And we actually, right now, we leverage external marketplace to sell this NFT, particularly OpenSea. So say I mint an NFT on the back of a $1,000 invoice. I go to OpenSea, and OpenSea always scans all ERC-721, so you can already see your NFT there. And if you can list your NFT for a value, it's typically has to be a discount to the face value being the value of the invoice. So if your invoice is $1,000, you typically want to list it at some percent discount. So let's say you list it for $950. So $50 a discount, which is effectively is the interest rate. And now on the other side, the lender will purchase your NFT. So purchase for $950, and what you get today is $950. And now your NFT is owned by the lender, right? And because we already worked this out on the smart contract level on the backend, when your invoice gets paid, the payment will go directly to the lender because the lender holds your NFT. So whoever holds the NFT will get the payout of the invoice. I guess that's one of the core technology feature that we have based on smart contract. And in this case, the $1,000 will go directly redirected to the lender. So that's just how it works. In terms of real world impact, I think in many emerging markets we have workers that work for foreign companies, right? So I have a few friends who works for companies in Malaysia and Germany. They take on graphic designer jobs, social media managing jobs, software programming jobs, and one of the dilemma that they have is about how to get paid, right? If they get paid through international transfer, international transfer not only take a few days, but it also get charged.
Yeah.
It's typically charged around $35, which is, if you think about it, it's crazy. Right.
Yeah.
So there's an option to get paid in crypto, which we know it's instant, right? But the problem is that if you get paid in crypto, then you actually lost your access to credit.
It's hard to make it as an income. Yeah.
Yeah, because
Down as an income.
yeah, because when you go to the banks now, if you go to the traditional banks, typically if you want to get credit, they would ask for your proof of income, right? And if you get paid in crypto, then it's tough to give your proof of income, right? So that's where the problem begins, and that's actually the problem that we make that as kind of the problem statement that we're trying to solve. So essentially enabling anyone who has income in crypto to be able to access credit on chain. So they are more encouraged to get paid in crypto, to use Request Finance, to use Request Network, without having to worry that if they actually get paid in crypto, they'll lose access to credit. So yeah, that's I guess the impact that we're aiming for.
What I haven't asked you is, and I was meaning to ask you is, can somebody default?
Yeah,
Is that possible on the Copra Finance platform?
Yeah, so the way we think about default is that any single lending operations has risk, right? We have a saying in the credit world: if there's no risk, there's no yield, right? So in this case, what we do, our job here is to create a framework to minimize that risk, but there's actually no way to eliminate all of the risk, because if you eliminate all of the risk, then the yield of the loan is going to be zero, right? Because there's no risk.
Yeah.
So the way we approach it is that first, the invoice itself, on the back end, we verify the invoice, whether this invoice exists. We have a KYC process where we verify the vendor or the employer of the invoice payee. We essentially verify to the payer whether this invoice actually exists, and if they are an employees or a contractor, we ask for the agreements. So that's how we currently doing it, which is kind of how credit works in the real world as well.
You mentioned currently, so are there plans to switch out the approach? I've seen some projects that have this sort of like risk fund where everybody pitches in, and if something happens, you get paid from that fund. If somebody defaults and you need your money back.
Sorry, Alex, can you repeat the last part? Kind of breaking up.
Yeah, if you're considering another approach, you said like currently this is what we're doing. So does that mean that you want to switch it up? You want to change the way you look at defaults? I've seen some other companies use sort of like a default fund where people pitch in with each loan. It's like a small fee or something, or a percentage. And from that default fund, you get reimbursed.
Yeah, I think the default funds is essentially the concept of tranching. So you have a junior tranche and a senior tranche, which is common in the credit world, but it doesn't ultimately eliminate or really minimize the risk. It's actually just splitting the exposure to different types of groups. So one group gets higher yield by taking a higher risk, which is the ones that chip into the default fund, right? And the other group takes a lower risk and a lower yield, which is the ones that's protected by the default fund. It's just a tranching mechanism. Obviously, we also think about that, but we think about that more towards, it's essentially kind of a fixed income derivative product, right? So it's more of just an extension module rather than anything. I think what we want to focus on is how do we scale, how do we streamline the operations of this KYC process, how we standardize. I know, by partnering with Request, all of the invoices are standardized, right? You guys have, data structure that is standardized. So that enables us to process the KYC, the carry credit underwriting process in a much more streamlined way. And obviously, we're working towards a more, a modeling, credit modeling, credit scoring, credit modeling, and that makes it, even better to have a standard. And I do believe the space has to work, like, the whole DeFi space has to work towards there, like some standardization of payments, because that's how credit modeling, if gets done. If everyone uses, different standards, then scaling and lending operations becomes harder. Yeah.
You're absolutely correct. We do believe in that as well, and having some sort of standard / streamlined process through which builders can communicate with each other. So in the request of ecosystem, there's Clock, which does machine learning credit scoring, right? And there's also Joba, and they provide sort of a reputation layer. They provide access to contract jobs and access to regular income. And all of these together can be linked with Copra to provide a seamless service and, like you said, a standard, streamlined, a good experience for somebody that is sick of, signing multiple transactions, opening up multiple tools, multiple platforms, shifting funds from one wallet to another, or from a centralized exchange to a decentralized exchange, and so on. Things should be much easier, right? And people should have a lot more easy access to these tools. And I'm happy to hear that there are people actually building it.
For sure. I mean, we actually know people from Flock as well. So yeah, we have quite a close relationship with them.
Yeah, I do hope that next year we can have an event where we all, get together, maybe at ECC or something, and we have our own dedicated event. It's something that we're working towards, and it's something that I would really love to see happening. I had an event where we can meet and discuss all of our plans in front of the world.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
Moving on from lofty dreams, I wanted to ask you. So I know that maybe 2 months ago, you launched the platform in beta. Is it still in beta, or can I sign up right now without an invite code? What features will I have access to if I sign up? What's the current status of the Copra platform?
So right now we're still in beta. I think it's really important to really hone on the details and make sure everything works well, the apps, the operations, etc. So we're currently collecting feedback for our.
Okay. Seems that the X app, this is not the first time this is happening. It happened with Jova as well. It just suddenly crashes on my Android phone. Boom. And
No worries.
yeah, I wish I could host these spaces from the desktop, from the PC. But it's just so annoying. Don't worry, I will merge the recordings together. And anyway, the plan is to have this on YouTube. And by next week, I'll probably have all the recordings with all the builders, including Copra, on our YouTube. And the new round of announcements and marketing goes on, so that we can feature everybody. So sorry about this. Let's. No worries. We were talking about what kind of features would I have access if I sign up right now to Copra, right? And it's still in beta, and you are focusing on building.
Yeah, we're focusing on getting feedback right now to really make sure that everything is smooth on the user experience and an operational side as well. So we're happy for anyone to try out our platform and give us some feedback. I think it's as simple as going to our website Copra.fi and just following the instruction flows there.
So anybody can sign up, right? There's no limitations right now. Cool.
No, there's no limitations. I mean, effectively, we do KYC, so I guess there is some limitations there, but inherently anyone can access the web app at the moment. Yeah, and I think I went through how it works before this, so I think that should be clear enough.
Okay, cool. And how do people give you feedback? Is there a form, or do you reach out to them personally?
Yeah, you can either DM us on our Twitter, which handle is @CopraFi, or you can DM me directly as well. My handle is my full name @Limiardi. Or you can also reach out through us. We have a channel on Request Networks Discord. It's the Copra Finance channel, so feel free to give us some feedback there as well.
Cool. So
or any questions the community have.
But aside from these particular channels, I wanted to ask you what are your future plans and what personally excites you the most for the future of Copra. But one of them is that, are you guys gonna open up some sort of community channel, or when do you plan to do that? I'm sure that you plan to do that, right?
Yeah, we're in the process of expanding our social media presence. As you know, we're a relatively still small team, and we have a lot of tasks and priorities that we have to do. So just right now, just putting some emphasis on the social media aspect. So we're gonna set up some Discord, be more active on our Twitter as well. So that's the plan.
So once you're more,
right now, I think looking into.
Once you're more comfortable with the product, would you say, or?
Sorry, what's that?
Would you do this once you're more comfortable with the product? Is that your approach?
Alex, sorry, I'm having quite a hard time hearing you. What did you say?
Would you open up to the community on multiple channels, on multiple social media channels, once you are more comfortable with the product?
For sure.
Or once you have more features?
For sure. Yeah. That's the plan. And I was also about to say, I think in terms of the medium-term plan is to just scale up. We plan to also integrate with more payment tools, and I think even Request Finance themselves. I think I'm happy to see that many are using your platform that comes from even outside crypto, Obviously, your main audience is with people within the crypto space, but to see others outside of crypto using your product as well, I think that proves the real world impact of requests of Copra and crypto in general as well. So that I think something in the future I'm very excited about.
Cool. Is there anything else that you would want to add? Is there somebody, I remember actually somebody from Flock at the end said that they're doing a token, they're launching a token for their platform. Are you going to launch a
Uh,
token?
we don't have a plan for that
All right.
yet, but stay tuned on our social media channels. Again, give us a follow on our Twitter at Copra or my personal Twitter at Brian Limiardi. So yeah, we don't know yet, but I'll keep you guys
I'd be
posted.
very interested to find out exactly how a token would, help. So that's for a different discussion for another time, I guess. So
For sure.
thank you
Yeah,
for attending, Brian. Apologies again for the little crash here. I
no
will personally
worries.
speak with Elon and make sure that he launches the next Space app for desktops. And you can expect to
For
have
sure.
this as as a video kind of podcast on the Request Network YouTube channel. And once you open up the Copra socials, I'll be more than happy to share this with you as well. So people have some sort of introduction or building block for their research on Copra. So thank you again, Brian. And
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Alex. It's a pleasure to be here on the Twitter space with all of you.
always, and let's meet in Istanbul. Let's talk more, and let's see what we can get out of our collaboration.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Brian. Thank you, everyone. Have a good day. Bye.
Take care. Bye bye.